Marta, for the introduction. Um, I hope you're all doing all right. Thank you very much for joining us, for giving us a bit of your time. I think there are people from everywhere, from Tunisia, from all over the world, it seems. Maybe I can start by introducing a bit what we're going to talk about. I hope I can catch your attention, but I would really like to for it to be an exchange. So don't hesitate to ask your questions in the chat. I can see them, and I would gladly answer to that or start discussing with you because I'm not a teacher myself, so I think I have a lot to learn from you as well. So, what I wanted to talk about with you today is first of all, let me check. Oh, I don't have my slide. All right, what I wanted to talk about to you today, it's really about what we are first, what is lie detectors, and then also about how to. I will ask you a bit about how you are consuming news on the internet, what social media channels you're on, and you'll see that it's a bit interesting for the my next points, and then I'll try to see with you to use that as an entry point to see how we can integrate or how we can talk about news literacy and fake news slash disinformation in a classroom in an entertaining and nice way. We will see a bit how we can debunk fakes with real examples that we are using sometimes in our program. We'll talk about what tools we can use to debunk this type of stories, what is available already there on online, offline, what tools you can use, and what we're doing. So maybe you can find a bit of inspiration there. And then also how to make it stick, how to integrate that in your teaching context, in your teaching routines, and how to make it stick. That's to say, how to make sure that your students find it interesting, find it something fun to learn about, and how that can have a long-term consequence, a long-term learning outcome. And then we will try to have some conclusions on that. So, as I said, I'm not a teacher myself. I know you all have different teaching subjects, also different schools, different contexts, and in the end, every student is different. So we'll try to cover it in as practical, so concrete but general way, so that everybody can find a bit of something in this presentation. Hello to the newcomers. I see the participants are coming up, but that's really great. So what is lie detectors? Maybe that's the first point because you might not be aware. So lie detectors is a news literacy program. We aim to be pan-European. At the moment, we're active mostly in Belgium, in Germany, and in Austria. So if you're from one of those countries, know that you can request something from us. Everything is for free. We also want to be active in very soon in Switzerland and in the Netherlands. So if you're from one of this country, please don't hesitate. Be in touch with us. You'll get our contact details from eTwinning afterwards. But to enter the subject, lie detectors is basically sending journalists into classrooms to start a discussion about disinformation with young students aged 10 to 15. So that's the age range we're going to talk about today, but I'm sure there are things that can be applied to other older students or younger students. And basically what we do is that we're talking about disinformation, but not only, also about facts, about journalism, about how do you create information. And so it's everybody that goes fact to fiction, but also everything that is in between and that we want to talk about. So it's more about critical thinking in the end than about really all the rest, because it englobes everything. Why do we do that? We noticed that there is a real issue there with, especially with young people, and we start from a kind of a pessimistic point of view, because we notice that disinformation, it's going more and more underground. You know, it's more and more hidden in different channels. I'm sure maybe some of you have had talks with your students that are saying things on WhatsApp, maybe on Instagram, in this pixelated form, and so on. And so it's very great that there are all those fact checking websites, but our point is that maybe that's not enough, and maybe what is important is to create resilience also among young people, so that they can ask the right question when it comes to it. They can ask themselves questions like, what is it, and who's doing that, and why am I seeing that, and so on. And what we see as well is that in the latest years, with the new digital environment, which is not so new, by the way, we see a lot of polarization. So, you know, young people, like other older people as well, are seeing a debate that is more and more polarized, because uh, the platforms are there to engage the users, and so it makes that it's the content that you see online is more and more radical. So you need more and more tools to make sure that you keep you stay critical in front of all of this, especially because this is something that is maybe very insidious, in the sense that it has been going on now for years, and it's like a real drip drip of one fake after another, even if it's like very small things. It shapes our relationship to facts, and it shapes the relationship of young people to facts and to reality as well. And it's not so much assessed. Nobody is. There are not so many initiatives talking about it, and we notice that you teachers are maybe at the forefront of that, and that's why we really try to go into the classroom with a journalist to start asking questions about what do you see online and why is it there, and in the end to really get this interactive discussion with the students, and with your help as well as teachers, to really have a conversation with different people. And so that's kind of our solution to that, is that we want to work with you teachers to make sure that you have help on that, and we can, if we can contribute to your work, then we would gladly do it. And we do it with journalists because we think that they're the right persons to talk about about information, about how information is constructed online, offline, in different contexts. And it's sometimes we get the feedback from the teachers we're working with that they really appreciate that, because this is an external contributor in your classroom, and it helps get a bit of the attention of your students. You tell me if you have that as well, but this is usual feedback that we get. And then we also want to work in your classroom, because I think this is where you can really talk to the students that are not so interested in the subject in the beginning, or don't really realize what is going on, and that's where you can talk to everybody. And then we noticed a few results from our visits in classrooms in Belgium, in Germany, or in Austria, is that it is a subject that is universal. There is no classroom that is really immune to disinformation. If you go to really privileged schools or less privileged schools, homogeneous or heterogeneous, what you get is the same conversation. All the students from all ages have something to say about it, have encountered it, and want to talk about it. It's really, I feel, something that should be approached. And yeah, we're trying here with the journalists, as I said, to create trusts, and we're really trying as well to approach students in a very realistic way. That's to say that we don't want to come to students thinking, oh, you're really those poor naive students that don't understand anything. Actually, they're really usually very digitally literate, if I may say. They know how to use many platforms that we don't know about it as an adult. As a 20-year-old person, sometimes I feel like, oh my God, they're so much more literate than me. But we try to really use that innate understanding that they have on the internet and then to redirect it towards something a bit more serious, news, and maybe to have that little sparkle in their mind that sometimes they have to ask questions, even if we start with very basic examples. Then you create a reaction, a reasoning that they can use maybe later on and that they can activate uh, on the long term when they encounter information that might be doubtful offline, online, and they can have this critical thinking muscle that is actually flexed. And that's our point with our initiative. What we found out as well is that, so as I said, it does not discriminate, it's everywhere. I'm sure it goes from, like, as I see in the chat, Italy to North Macedonia. Must, like many of you must have encountered that issue in your classroom. And what we found out from the feedback of more than, as you can see, we have a report here that we had the chance to publish not so long ago, and it's based on the feedback from more than 8,000 children. It's also, I don't know how many teachers, but it's 400 classrooms. And the teachers from all of those classrooms are telling us that they want to approach the subject, but that they don't have the resources, and that they want to discuss it, but that they feel that they are not they don't have material to do so. And so that's why we really want to work on this with you. You can find this report on our website. Maybe we can give it later on in your chat room so that you can see about what we found out, and we're going to discuss that a bit later on. And yeah, basically, the people from the OECD, like Andreas Schleicher, agree with us that now your role as a teacher is slightly different than before, because before you could just say, oh, you want a subject, you can go to the encyclopedia, and you're going to find the information there, and it's true. And today we have like so many sources. You have the internet, you can go on Google, you can go on other research browsers, you can go on different social media channel, you have information everywhere, and you feel like the role of the teacher now is also to help the student to really construct and validate the knowledge. And so that's why we're doing all this, and that's why we think it's really important to do this. And so to finish about us and get a bit more into the subject, I wanted to show you a video. So I'll try to share my screen. I hope it works.
Can you hear me? I can show the video because I have uploaded it on Adobe, so I'll do it for you if it
Great.
works. Mm.
You? That's the end.
Okay. Was it the correct one?
Yeah, it's the correct one, but I didn't see anything. That's the end.
Okay, you
That's all
didn't
right.
see.
We can maybe share it after.
Okay, well, let's try again.
Ah, yeah,
No?
that's a bit.
Sorry? Is it fine? Can you hear me, Adeline?
It to me it blocked a bit. Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you want to try to share your screen and maybe it works better?
Yeah, and maybe let's do that. Yeah. Can I?
Okay, let's try
I'll
then.
try
Yeah,
now.
yes.
Do you see it?
Um, no, I cannot see it. I can just hear the audio, but I cannot see the video. We cannot see it, but if it's fine for you, we can send the link later.
Yeah.
We can send the link in the chat so they will be able to see it, okay? If it works like that, maybe.
Oh, okay. So you didn't see it?
No.
Too bad. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll send the link. Okay. Next point then. What I wanted to start with was actually asking you for your news consumption. That's to say, if you could take the link here, click on the link. Maybe you can put it in the chat if it works, and just to see this simple question, what social media do you use? Do you use Facebook, Twitter? Do you use WhatsApp? If you can answer that question, um, and click on the link and vote. Great, I see you did it. Fantastic. So we're going to see your answer in a few seconds. I'll give you a bit of time because I know it's not always easy with all the technicalities, but I think it's a great start and it's a great basic thing to check in the end. Let's maybe see if we can see the result together. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, of course. Try to share it.
I'm not sure I can.
You just click on share on my screen. Yeah.
No. I'd like to show the results if we can.
But can you see the share my screen on the...
But then it doesn't allow me somehow. Okay. Maybe I can give you the results on chat if we refresh it, if it works.
Yeah,
See
if it
results.
works, would be amazing.
No. Here. Normally, if you click on the see results, you will all see our results. So what I can see on my screen.
Yeah, we can see the results.
Okay, is that 28% of you are using Facebook, 26 WhatsApp, 21 YouTube, 12 Instagram, 12 Twitters, and 2 Snapchats. All right? Maybe you can have a look yourself. I'm sure the results will change a bit if we refresh it. But yeah, 20 Facebook and WhatsApp are the big winners there. So what I would propose to you is to compare that with what we found out with students. So you remember I told you we make that study about that on the basis of our visits. So every time we give them a little feedback form to the teachers we visit, but also to the students. And what do we find is that there is a big divide between the teachers' answers and the students' answer. The students are always on WhatsApp and on YouTube, and then on Instagram, Snapchat, and then barely on Facebook or on Twitter. And if you compare that with our results here, that are like Facebook, WhatsApp, and then YouTube and Twitter, then you see that they are going in places where the teachers are not, or the teachers we visited, I don't know about you, are not going. And that's the first step in our thinking about how to talk about it to our students, is really take that into account. What we find out is that they're all on the platforms that are using visual content. Yeah, like Instagram, like you're saying on the chat, and that's the first thing you have to think about. It's like, okay, maybe I'm myself, I'm a Facebook user, but you see, there's no there's no point in talking about Facebook with them because they're not so much where they're going. And that's really a thing. And our journalists are also telling us that when they talk about this information to the students, most of them are when they're facing an article or when they're facing a post or something, and if you tell them, oh, this is fake, their first thinking is, oh, the image is fake, I knew about it, like the man there is totally not that old because he's because yeah, in the like they are directly focusing on the images and not so much on the textual content like we would. You would check the source, you would check the author, you would check the date. This is something that is apparently not so natural to those students that have actually grown up in a digital, very visual world, that have grown up with Instagram, for instance. I see someone saying in Tunisia, Facebook is the most popular. Of course, this depends on the country, but in the countries we've been in, this was a very clear difference between teachers and students. So basically, that's the first step in our conversation when we talk about fake news and news literacy in the classroom. We have to, I think, assume nothing. That's our first lesson, I think. Um, that we cannot think, oh, I'm using Facebook, then hence they are using Facebook. This is not the case. And maybe a good point is also to then, the second time, ask open question like, where are you getting your news? And then maybe if they face something fake or that is a bit misleading, it's like, how do you call that? Do you call that lie? Do you call that a joke? Because we often come in the classroom with our idle mindset of, oh, this is propaganda, or this is fake news, this is disinformation. But when you talk about that to 10, 11, 12-year old, I'm sure you're all aware as teachers that they have their own experience, they have their own words, and maybe the first thing to talk about news literacy in the classroom is really get those words out of the children to make sure that they're actually talking about something they know. And 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 then it's totally linked to that, but we've noticed that maybe people are sometimes afraid of talking about this because in the end we're not using TikTok. How many of you are using TikTok? Do you know what TikTok is? It's this platform most of the young people that participated in our program are in. and I didn't know about it. And I think of myself as a quite young social media user. It's a sort of Instagram for sharing little videos about uh, singing and talking a lot. And so there are lots of things happening there that we don't know about, and that sometimes can be scary. But I think if you're asked a question, if you ask a question, if you start a conversation, if you let it come from them, it could be a really interesting talk to have with them. And it's also a way to make it interesting, you can make it like something of their world. There's also Twitch, I think. Twitch is this gaming platform I've heard many kids are on. And so starting the conversation, it's first about making sure that we're talking about something they're experiencing. And if we start from the point of view like I'm using Facebook, and so we were going to talk about Facebook, we risk missing the point here, and missing their experience, and that would be a pity. Also, I think linked to that is the another advice is keeping it light. We have a tendency to want to talk about those big topics like politics or migration or far rights or religious tolerance, and this all makes it a very scary subject that could actually be taken down to very simple things. We can talk about examples that are non-political, very neutral, not so emotional, but that can still be fun for the children or the students to talk about, because um, it's part of their world, it's part of their experience, and they will be engaged. And that's in the end something as well that we want to keep in our mind, is really to get them involved, to make sure that they're the ones initiating the conversation, and answering questions, and maybe playing games, and this kind of stuff. It's all things we want to keep in that conversation. um, and then of course we don't want to tell any of our students what is right, what is wrong. We don't want to give them this knowledge like this, but we want to empower them. That's to say, give them the tools to act on themselves, give them the skills to really empower them to make their own choice from themselves. And that's really something that might stick with them a bit more. It's really the giving them the skills and giving them the tools. So I think those 6 aspects are really the beginning of our conversation about disinformation and news literacy in the classroom. Please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat if you have some. I'm really happy to answer to them. And maybe our next step now will be to see if what is your experience about it yourself. So I'd like to show you a few examples that we are giving to our students ourselves, and see it as an exercise. So that's to say, some are real, some are fake, and maybe we can vote number 1 real, number 2 fake, and so on in the chat, so we can see together if you're scoring just as good as our students or not. So I'll show you the different examples one by one, and then we can see the results. All right, it's just on the chat to see who's saying what. So the first example is about a man in India that says that he's 179-year-old. And he says that death has forgotten him. And it's an article from World News Daily Report. And then there's a second one. It's from the Mail Online, and it's this person in Southeast India that believes his cobra is the reincarnation of his girlfriend. And so he's spending time with Cobra and saying he wants to, he actually marries the Cobra. Then the third example we usually talk about is the story about Pope Francis that endorses Donald Trump for president, and he makes a statement. So that dates back already from before Trump's election. And then we have the fourth one that is this shark. There was a hurricane in Texas, and water rose, and the shark was in the street on the highway, and this person took a picture and made a tweet about it. So I see reactions there, a few fake, a few real. It's a bit tricky to discover. I see actually, well, they're all fake. They're all fake. I like to trigger you by saying a few are real and a few are fake, but they're all fake. And that's how usually we try to start a conversation as well with the students, is really putting them up to the test to see what they think. Also, you can see some children are saying, or also teenagers are saying, yes, this one is real, because they see the other ones are saying it's real. So it's a bit of a community thing. Um, so I think there are really a few things. So you can find them everywhere, this type of examples. And then what is good is that you can really analyze them in so many different ways and address so many different topics there in a very basic way. What we like to use, and maybe we can share the link as well later on, is this checklist about how to recognize wrong messages. And it has different elements. Um, Sometimes it's very basic because we think for us it makes sense, but for students it doesn't. So um, we have to really address every point. So consider the source, read beyond. I think it's also something that we talk about a lot. With the digital environment, you have this feed and you have all the titles, and then you never read beyond. But yet you can still read the headline without and believe it. So you have different things. You have to check the author as well, supporting sources. You can also talk about, yeah, as I said, the text in the different parts of the article. You can talk about the fact that sometimes if you think it's a joke, what does it have as a consequence? Like if jokes are taken for real, sometimes it can be really harmful. However, you have the right to make a joke in this kind of discussion. So you can really go into a lot of different discussions by just a simple checklist as this one. Another one that I like a lot is check your own biases, because there were really interesting discussion you can have about why do you believe something that is fake? What is your own internal bias? Why would you want to believe that, and so on? So it's really a basic but interesting way to approach the subject in with different aspects. Maybe we can check now a bit or examples. I won't do everything, I think, because I'm not sure I have the time. But for instance, the Indian man, directly, actually, you can see World News Daily Report. That's the title, and then you have this little where facts don't matter. And if you go a bit around, if you ask your student, look for the further info, then you go on About Us, and it says World News Daily Report assumes all responsibility for satirical nature of its articles. And then you can go on explaining what is satirical and so on. And so it's really an exercise that you can do in so many basic but different ways that it can fit in every age group or in every context and so on. And still it's not political, it's not emotional, it's not so difficult. And that's a really a great thing to keep in mind, is that it doesn't have to be that heavy. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can be critical about very simple and basic facts. Then you have the example of the crowbar. I don't know if a few of them, I didn't check the answers, so if a few of them of you believed it. But basically, you do a basic Google search, and what do you find? First result is the article. Second result is snake marriage story fake. And so you can also talk about, in this example, you can talk about the personal consequences uh, on this man that actually suffered about disinformation about his own case, and so on. So you can discuss it as well in the classroom with your students about the personal consequences for disinformation on them. That's a way to make it relevant as well, because what we saw as well is like older students tend to say, oh, well, this is all fake and I don't mind, I don't care. I will just decide what I decide and that's it. And that's a bit the danger here that we have, is that they're aware of it and they don't care so much. Well, you can bring it back to this level of, would you like, how would you feel if someone was spreading lies about you? How would you feel if by sharing something that is a lie, you would look like a fool, or you would look like someone that is not so nice to other people? So there is different ways to broach that topic without being so heavy, and still making it relevant to you students. And again, those are different aspects that we have to talk about. So this is the debunking of the story about the man marrying the snake. And then we have this interesting case of the shark. Well, the shark, it's an image, and it's actually a fake image. And you might be aware that there are lots of those fake images that are now popping up, and it's difficult to explain to someone, oh, this image is fake or this image is real. What can we do? Well, actually, we can teach students how to verify by themselves in a very, very easy way. It can be as easy as using Google Image. I'm sure very young, like your students, even if they are very young, they know about Google Image. Well, on Google Image, there is a little search button, and then there is also a little camera, and the camera is for reverse image search. That means that you can search an image and find out where it was on the internet. So that's the reverse of you searching an image of something. You can do it in reverse, search an image, and you will get all the results. You can also do it in another website that is called TinyEye. I can put it here. You can do it even live if you want. Link is on the chat. And in TinyEye, you can upload your image or enter the URL, and it will give you all the results, as I said. Oops, next slide, of where the image is. So here you have the image of the shark. You just enter the URL here in the search bar, and you get 800 results. And then with very easy way again with your students, you can do it online. You search the oldest appearance of the image. You'll get funny results, like the tweet dates from 2017, but this image is already from 2012. It was already on the internet. And then if you look a bit further, you can see it was first published as another tweet, and then it was also published in 2015. Here it's in North Myrtle Beach, but before it was in Jersey. In our first example, it was in Texas. So you can really do that you can really explain that in a funny way. And then basically where you can see is that it comes from an image of National Geographic, and it's ironically a picture that of a shark that a professional photographer looked for weeks, and he finally found a picture. He finally found the shark, and now the shark is all over the internet, in Jersey, in Houston, in North Myrtle Beach. It's 800 times in different tweets. So you can really have those funny stories. There is another one. I can share the links. I don't know if I have it here, but I can share the links later to that specific example. There is the other one with an antelope that is saving her cubs from a cheetah, and it's actually also a picture that you can find everywhere on the internet, but with this wrong story about this mother that is sacrificing herself, while the real story is totally different. I'm sure I can give you the link later on. But those examples are really easy, accessible, and entertaining, and it's a real nice way to make it neutral and non-political and not heavy, but still really funny. And also your student can play themselves; they can be empowered and play their detectives themselves, and that's a real added value because you know just as well as I do that when they do it themselves, then it sticks with them, and that's maybe the important things. Here you can have as well a list of verification sites. So that's where you can find all this type of links, all this type of examples. You have it in the US. Sometimes it's very political, but sometimes it's totally generalistic. You can have in different languages, in Germany, in English as well, but also in French. AFP Factual is really nice because it goes across languages, so you can find the initial fake in English or in Spanish or in French. You have it in Canada, in Spain, in Sweden. I don't know if how many of you are there, but you have it in all languages, all countries, because it's basically something you can do in many cases. So you can find there interesting examples if you're maybe interested in a particular topic, and you can debunk it with your students. Also Czech Republic, Croatia. We can put that maybe in your chat room so that you can access it later on. Um, and yeah, now we're going to see that basically those are really nice, but it's always a list of link, and it's a bit maybe not so practical for you as teachers. And we know about that in Lighter Texas because we've been talking to a lot of teachers telling us that they just want something that is catered for their students, that to say the level of difficulty of your that has to be adapted to the age of your students, their knowledge of the issue, the time that you have maybe, and this kind of stuff. And um, that's why we want to really gather the resources that could be really fun and interesting for you, and that you can really click on it in a second and you might have it and it's really adapted to your context. So I don't know if you know about Get Bad News. It's this really interesting game that teaches your students about how to make fake news, and that's a really also a very fun an attractive way to learning because they do it themselves. So they're the big editor of this newspaper, and they have to get readers. So you're starting to make those big headlines that are very emotional to get a bit more readers, and then you're lying about something, and then you're cheating about something. And this concept is to inoculate the virus of disinformation. It's a really cool thing. You can have it in different languages, different levels. There is a junior level as well for younger player. Yeah, it's a game. I can get you here I think you can get it here, getbadnews.com. You have so many different things like that are existing, but it's a bit scattered everywhere. You have the BBC as well. That's in English only, I think, and that teaches how information is constructed. As I said in the beginning, we don't want just to tell students, oh, you can check this is right, this is wrong. It has to go along with their understanding of how a professional journalist is creating information. And that's also a nice game that makes you work in a newsroom, and then makes you understand how, in a funny way, how to create knowledge, how to create information in a professional way. And so if you combine the fact checking with learning how real information is made, then you get a really complete knowledge of and complete understanding of, okay, information works like that, and I can myself debunk it if I want. I can check if something is real or wrong, and then you really get this complete image, and you can make sure that they understand the universe, the information universe they navigate in every day, basically. There are others, factitious. Here in factitious, it's also about checking news. And the funny thing is that it's really, as I said, it's not political. It's not. It's nice. It's like Mozart outsold Beyonce in CD sales in 2016. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it some? It's something that talks that is really part of the world of your students, maybe. And the good thing is also online on in a phone version, and that's something that is sometimes missing. Again, I come back to my first point: what is their experience? Most of the children are accessing the internet through their phones, so you need to make sure that you adapt the resources to make it accessible for them even outside of the classroom. What else? You have again another thing. It's in French now. It's also about learning how information is made in a newsroom. It's a docufiction. That's to say that you have little videos, and then you can make your choices, and you decide you go into one exercise or another. So you have plenty of those everywhere. And then you can also have something offline. I am well aware that all classrooms are not super equipped to teach about things that are digital. And so sometimes you need to teach about digital, but offline. And that's okay. There are things for you to do that offline. There is this example in German. I don't know if there are German speakers here, but it's a fake news bingo. So it can be done easily on paper. It's really about checking, okay, is it emotional? Check. Is it a clickbait? Check. Is it about something totally wrong? Check. And so you can really do that in all type of material, in all type of levels of difficulty, also according to the time you have, as I said. And so that's something that we really want to do in lie detectors. What you're seeing here is the first version of a toolbox we want to create for you teachers to make sure that you can really address um, disinformation in your classroom, but in an easy way. We know that you don't have the time to check all the links that we can give you. So this is kind of a selection that is made to cover all the cases. In a classroom that is not equipped with, I don't know, Wi-Fi, in a classroom where you only have 10 minutes, where you have 90 minutes, when you have like um, students that are maybe particularly sensitive to this topic or that topic, that are totally new to the topic. And so we're really trying to do that and select this for you, because we know that you have a lot of time, a lot of things to already on your shoulders. And so if you needed a little bit of help with that, we'd really like to offer you that to you. Of course, everything is free. Um, because this is something important. We can really, I will try to give you all the links maybe later in the chat room. And then maybe we don't have much time left, so I'd like to talk about how to make it stick. So we know that sometimes we're giving one session with the journalists. Sometimes you have one lesson about something, And our worry is here how to make sure that it's a long-term learning. Well, we have a few tips about it as well. As I told you, I'm not a teacher, so I know you have a lot too, and I would love to exchange with you about this because we can learn from each other. But a few tips from us, it's really like giving tools rather than anything else. So if you want to have a long-term learning from your students, I think really it should be about giving them tools that they can use, reuse, become familiar with, and really insert in their own practices outside of the classroom for a longer term when they're getting bigger. And that's how you really train them with a tool that they like, that is attractive, that is relevant for their age, their topic of interest, relevant as well for their material, and so on. We talked about it already. Make it light. I think I said that enough. That we don't need to be so heavy about this. It doesn't need to be those heavy topics that are not so interesting to young people. And then uh, maybe that pick your battles. That's to say that sometimes we feel like, okay, we have to fact check everything, we have to make sure that everything is correct, and we cannot do that. It's impossible even for us as adults. um, we have to convey this message to young people that it's all right if they don't fact check everything. We're not asking them that because by 10 o'clock in the morning they would be really really tired if they have to fact check every info that comes in their newsfeed, from their friends, in their WhatsApp chat, in their Instagram, but that they fact check something